Hello, I'm EnterElysium, and I make gaming and sometimes educational content on YouTube. You might know me from my co-illustrated program content where I tend to blow up, well, everything. Possibly even my Needs You series, where I tend to kill off my viewers and then feel really bad about it. Or maybe even my I Run News series, where I tend to talk about gaming news and what's going on. But I'm here today to talk about Patreon and why I'm on Patreon. YouTube is a brilliant system. It really is great in theory. A company pays me to make content for you without you having to pay a penny. In theory, I get to make a living and you get free content. But there are a number of issues with that. Firstly, ad revenues are really tiny. YouTube itself takes a fairly large cut, followed by your network, and that's before even, say, the taxman. Not only that, but exchange rate is pretty poor. Secondly, ad revenue is not consistent. It tends to oscillate wildly and in fact falls off a cliff so hard in January you need a bucket to mop it up. And it takes 6 months until it's even back in a vague semblance of what it was originally. Thirdly, content ID and copyright claims, bogus copyright claims, mean that content creators can put a lot of effort into a piece of work and then have their monetization denied for an entire month, even with a fair claim. And finally, YouTube adverts can be fairly intrusive, and particularly at the moment YouTube is pushing to have multiple mid-roll adverts in the middle of your content on fairly normal length videos. And this is not particularly sustainable for those channels that aren't getting tens of millions of views per month. More and more we're seeing YouTube's turning towards brand deals and promotional content, and while the majority of those are in fact fine, there are a certain number which are dubious, shady, and in some cases downright illegal. So you really have to be chasing those views. Those six-figure view numbers are really what it's all about. And the more time you spend on a piece of content that doesn't get those six-figure views, the more of a waste of time it is. Which is why I kind of moved away from doing educational content on my second channel, and in fact edited content to a certain extent on my main channel, because I just couldn't afford to spend the time doing those bits of content that wouldn't bring in the six-figure view numbers. Just to put this in perspective, try and think of 1,000 people. Not as a crowd or as a stadium, but try and visualise 1,000 faces without them blurring together or becoming the same. It's very hard, isn't it? And 1,000 people is a lot. But on YouTube, 1,000 people, 1,000 views is basically nothing. It's not even a cup of coffee. 10,000? That's still basically nothing. 100,000? You're getting there, particularly if it's a regular occurrence. But 10,000 is basically nothing on YouTube. And that's bonkers. How can 10,000 people be worthless? It's a system that forces you into covering the next big thing, to doing quick, non-edited content to try and get as many views as possible very quickly. And while I think there is a place for that, I think it's ludicrous that you should write off tens of thousands of people and basically call them worthless. And so that's why I'm here. I don't want to have to spend my time stressing about being the next big thing, about trying to get those six-figure views, about jumping through the menagerie of ever-changing hoops. I don't have to fear the acts of content ID looming above my head every time I upload something that I've put effort into, and I don't want to have to chase brand deals that are as rare as gold dust. And that's where Patreon steps in. Patreon provides the ability for you to donate small amounts to me every month, and by using this to cushion the highs and lows of the ad model, I can continue to produce content that you enjoy without having to worry about content ID, six-figure views, or chasing lucrative brand deals. A number of people have asked in the past of ways that they can donate one-off, or have said that they run ad block and would like a way to support the channel, and Patreon is perfect for this. Now, to be clear, no video will ever be permanently Patreon exclusive, and you shouldn't feel pressured in any way into being a Patreon. I value you all, whether you can afford to be a Patreon or not. So if you want to help me create a sustainable channel, make more thoughtful and edited content, or even just have adblock and want to be able to give something back, then have a look at my Patreon today and join the empire. Stay shiny.